Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to So Well Media. We are back here with myself and Jay King to review episode 4 of season 4 of Invincible. Now, currently on Prime Video. We had the first 3 episodes that dropped last week, the first 3, and now we have one single episode releasing week by week. And episode 4 is actually doing something the creator, Robert Kirkman, is had years in the making of planning to do, but never had the opportunity to do it. Now he's finally doing it in animation in this show. We received return of Damien Darkblood, the demon from season 1 that got banished in the Shadow Realm. I rebuke. And he got banished to hell again in Jesus' name. I rebuke. I'm gonna keep saying that a lot just to let you know, deal with it. When he was suspecting Nolan was who he's trying to hide that he actually was, with terms of his intentions of conquering Earth and everything and killing the Guardians of the Globe. Now, after 3 seasons later, we see him and he's in Satan, hanging out with Satan and just chilling while he's fighting this other demon with his sister called Volcanica. Right? They could have thought of anything else. They couldn't use Lava Girl. They couldn't use a lot of other characters, but they used Volcanica. And so he since try to bring he expects is Nolan down to hell, into the Shadow Realm, and actually ends up being invincible because there's no other Viltrumite on Earth except aside from Oliver and him. And now the adventure continues with him trying to team up with Damien Darkblood to defeat Volcanica and save the day, or save hell, I guess you could call it, or save the surface world too. But yeah, what was your thoughts in terms of this episode, seeing return of Damien Darkblood?
It's definitely a very welcoming return because it's like, as we said, we haven't seen this character since season 1, and as we also said, this storyline of this episode never happened in the comics. Robert Kirkman never had time to do like a demon storyline or go back to Damien, as far as I recall. So the fact that he is using the show to basically get the chance to do some things he never got to do before, just like how he's used the show to like tell the same story but in a sequence that is a lot more digestible for people who aren't reading comic books, I think it's a very cool thing, because it means that not everything that we expect from the comics will be there, or that some things will get expanded upon that maybe only got like an issue or so to really get shown at all. And it is welcoming to see him back, because he was, pretty cool. I mean, come on, it's Clancy Brown. You can't go wrong with Clancy Brown, in your ear. Dude's a legend. But this was a very interesting one. Again, a lot of rebuking when it comes to this episode, because this is basically trying to power up Satan, and I would like to think not. But again, this is the world of Invincible, where a lot of things are screwed up. But before that actually happened, though, we had this moment where Mark went to go see Art, Mark Hamill's character, the tailor of superhero costumes, to talk about the fact of what he did back in episode 1, the premiere, with killing the Sequids and the human that was being controlled by the Sequids, and the fact that he still feels like he's this close to becoming his father, or he's this close to having the same tendencies like his father, because again, he feels like if he had killed Angstrom or killed Conquest or killed all these other people, things would magically get better. And he's still dealing with that. He's still dealing with almost killing Dinosaurus. He's still dealing with the fact that Robot and Monster Girl are now gone and all that stuff. Like, everything has kind of gone crazy. Not even to mention the fact that we now know Mark and Eve are about to have a kid, but he doesn't know that yet. And so it's like, just having the time to talk to who is probably the only other father figure in Mark's life, because that really is what Art is, outside of like Cecil in some ways. Art is really the only other person that I've seen Mark go to console in, because he's been doing this for a long time. He knows the ins and outs of how these superheroes deal with this type of stuff. And it's like, there is no easy answer when it comes to that. I mean, hell, that's also another part that I like about this demon storyline, is that it not only does Art have some conversations with Mark about it, even Damien has some conversations about, like, sometimes there are necessary evils and sometimes there are just things you got to do, and like, depending on what could be worse, this or that, what would you rather have, and that sort of thing. That's a type of mentality that Mark is starting to go through. But I like that, even though, again, we're dealing with demons here.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I've already seen most of the season. This was my least favorite episode of this season. I don't think it's my least favorite episode of the show, but just of this particular season, just because yeah, we're kind of like it's a little slower pace, even though there's craziness going on, a little demons, fighting. Invincible gets dragged down the hell to work with Damien Darkblood and Satan. Even like me saying that, you're just thinking like, what the heck, right? Um,
Right.
but they balanced it out. They had a great conversation. I thought Damien Darkblood was a really interesting character in terms of what he represented and also just conversation he had with Mark about the balance of scales of what hell is and darkness and light, and also the storytelling that uh, the surface world do in terms of giving like fairy tales to actually stuff that's reality, right? And there's a balance. Like, yeah, we need darkness just as we need light, right? But then that's also a reflection of who he is as a person, of what's going on, of what he experienced to the point of now he's just been going through, event after event, and he feel like he can't catch a break. And even to the point now, you literally dragged in hell, you know? So it's like, how low can you go, really?
Right.
But it's like, and with that, I really like, again, we see the return of this character, and yet at the right before we get into the main event of the Viltrumite War, we still also tie up a loose end of knowing that this character is back. Even at the ending of season 3, like we knew Damon Darkblood was coming back, but he was going to summon somebody, but we thought it was Nolan, and he thought it was Nolan, but it was Mark. But I want to know your thoughts also, as we have that like kind of like the main central point of him working with Damien and Satan, but also what's going on in the surface world too. Of you have Eve dealing with the fact that she's pregnant, and there was a great scene of her. I forgot the best friend's name. William. See, and if you also know the changes of William as a character, it's not the fact that he's not gay in the comics, but the fact they revealed it earlier and just make this just a natural part of this character. But I thought it was just a great knowing who he is as a person, as someone to console her in that time of need when Mark is away, or at least is at the point she doesn't know he's away, but just as a big mom that she's about to drop on him and everything. And it's not that she don't love Mark. It's just that, hey, are you ready for a child in this world that you almost died, he almost died, right? And at this point, it's like what the consequences you want to do. And that's why I actually liked the Invincible storyline, because it dealt with mature themes, like pregnancy, like abandonment, death, even abuse. Like there's one part they didn't do the previous season with Amber.
Right.
So which I mean, and honestly, I'm okay they didn't do that, especially also the change of that character. Like that wouldn't go well. But at the same time, it's like it makes sense of you not. I was afraid that you were not going to avoid all the story points, but this is a very pivotal part in Mark's story. Even when he comes back after the whole. Well, actually, I'm not even going to spoil that, but just know that point is resolved. And addressing that as another strain in their relationship, which again is human. Whether you're adults or young adults or teenage, whatever, dealing with that weight, and you're in a relationship with each other, it's definitely going to change things, right? But I like that like his mind is wandering somewhere, and yes, she's trying to drop something on him, but yes, she's mindful that he's about to go do something, and he doesn't have the mind for it. If I drop this bomb on him, and it's like, yeah, he's gonna be completely distracted, he's gonna lose his guard and actually will die. So and it kind of leads to another point of her character, which I won't reveal, but when I think they're going to address. But I just like the scene again, allowing us to sit with that moment. What was your thoughts on that with Eve?
Like as Eve said, there is really no easy time for her to tell this whole thing to Mark, because it's like neither of them expected it, obviously. And I mean, hell, like sometimes people are expecting when this type of revelation happens, sometimes they don't, and it just really becomes one of those instances of like, what do you do now when you're faced with this big life-changing thing? And again, there's a lot of stuff that will happen with it this season, but a lot of stuff that also won't happen until at least the next season, once we're past the Viltrumite War, or at least past certain points in the Viltrumite War. Again, sad that Eve chose the very worst time. We'll get back to that in a second, but just like it's one of those moments where it's like, especially when you think about the conversation she had with William, it's like if she loves Mark and if they both love each other as much as they have, I think the both of them will be able to find a way to work it out and be able to navigate the because again, it's like, yeah, this is a dangerous world where literally it almost seems like every second they can't hold their breath because it's like, oh, there's Viltrumites, oh, there's alternate reality marks, oh, there's Angstrom, oh, there's the Sequits, oh, there's these time traveling robots, or oh, there's these people that age fast but have been coming back every few months just to screw with us and all that type of stuff. Like, anything can happen, but that's also the uncertainty. It's like that's the uncertainty, but that's also the thing that you can't really you can't really plan for what type of world you're bringing a child into. You can do your best to try and help them navigate it, but there's just some things that you're not going to be able to prevent, or some things that you're not going to be able to anticipate, and that's just life, and that's just maturity. And again, that's another thing that I'm glad that Invincible did. I mean, hell, want to talk about unexpectedness? I'm pretty sure Mark and Oliver did not expect Debbie to be like, hey, so me and Paul are moving to the next steps in our lives, and I'm moving in with him, and we're selling this house. Like, that's a whole thing. Imagine that brings in another conversation of like, Mark grew up here. Oliver, even though he's been growing fast, has grown up here, and now they're moving. Now they have to move on with an unexpected change in their lives. So it's like, how do you deal with that type of thing?
Yeah, yeah. How do you deal with it? And it's unfortunate, but again, this is just even conversation, just as you're maturing as a person. Again, like, you're dealing with tough choices and also responsibility at the same time. And again, I like the fact they have the internal struggle as heroes, but just as
Mhm.
people. You know what I mean? I think that just really organic and go to the writing of the show, and why we love it so much.
And I mean, really, outside the only other thing is just Satan gets juiced up with his crown when Mark helps him, and also by the end of the Demon Adventures, Mark does retake his old suit, so he's no longer in the blue and black. He's now back in his classic blue and yellow costume that he hasn't worn since the end of season 2, which it doesn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily show that he's better or that he's whole, but it does represent, like, trying to come out of that darkness, because as we said, that blue and black suit, in a similar sense to how some iterations depict the symbiote storyline for Peter Parker, represents a darker, more mature, more heavy subjects when it comes to Invincible. And it won't be the last time we see the blue and black suit, trust me. But in terms of him retaking his old costume, that's him trying to retake some semblance in his life. Again, right before everything, which I guess we should just talk about it right now, because the episode does end with right before Eve decides to tell Mark that she's pregnant. That is the moment that Nolan and Alan finally show up and say, yep, we can't wait any longer. It's time for war. Mark, Oliver, we need you. We need you in this war. The Viltrumite war has begun. We've come to get you. Well, not just you guys, but we've come to get you.
Well, I think it would be interesting whether they just came from Mark and not Oliver, which would probably be interesting to see, because again,
Right.
he got other
Right.
priorities and stuff, and also again, in his pathway of forgiveness, there might be a sense of avoidance for him. Like, hey, I don't want to talk to, or I don't want Oliver to see me.
Plus, remember when he last saw Oliver, he was still an infant. He has no clue that the Viltrumite and Flaxen genes have aged him up to preteen status, or that he's already a superhero.
Yeah, and I'm really intrigued for you to see like the other episodes as we move forward, because I think, again, that's one of my best moments of this season, of just you seeing the evolution of Nolan, even when he's getting in decisions, like in choices that he on paper is like, yeah, that's very stupid for you to do, but like he has to go through it because of repentance and forgiveness, right? And again, not everybody's gonna believe him and side with him at first and stuff like that, but at the same time, he's there to help.
Hmm.
And it'd be interesting to see that dynamic and how Oliver's gonna respond to him. But with Mark, is just one, he didn't know if his dad was probably dead the last
Hmm.
time he saw him. So now seeing him, full on like, oh wait, you're alive, and oh, and now you need me to come with you, and I see Alan there and all that stuff is just like, oh god, you know.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, plus everything else that was going on in his brain from the demon shit and the conversations he's already had. So this was probably one of the worst few times. But just like as we said, some things come unexpectedly and you can't plan for it. Just like how we didn't plan for that post-credit scene, because it seems like even though we thought this was a one and done original storyline, I guess Robert Kirkman's not done with the demon stuff, because looks like Satan might want a war on Earth, which is the last thing we want.
Yeah, and I think it, was I think that was Satan talking to him, but
Hmm.
just you helping somebody, and now you got your own personal gain now. What was the villain name? The Rock, Luke Cage, uh,
From episode 3, that was Titan.
Titan. So like similar to how Titan moved, where he asked for invincible health, like his help and everything, and then afterwards he turned him like, "Hey, sorry man, I gotta do what I gotta do." And I think that's exactly what happened with with Damien Darkblood. Is like you made a deal with the devil to help him out, and then you're surprised again he's gonna do something selfish and have his own agenda even after you helped him. Like, of course you are, you know. Um, like, of course he's gonna be doing something. But I'm very intrigued to see what they have in store for Damien. I don't know if we're gonna see him again for the rest of the season, but I like the fact that it's been a while since we've seen him. That they brought him back in this point, as that whole thing of going down to the lowest moment, if you want to call it, going into hell and coming out reborn and taking back that his original suit, and then the way he was, the scene he was flying, again, there's a lot of parallels to him and Spider-Man and all that stuff, but it really good to just see him be happy again, at least briefly, until another stuff happens and Nolan shows up back on Earth. And but we don't know how Cecil's gonna respond, because he will know. And at this point, like, what that's gonna mean for Debbie, after she just said, "Hey, let's all move in together and move out of here." And I was like, sure, okay. And by the way, Dad's here, like, so that'd be interesting to see though. But I still thought this was a decent episode though, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how this Viltrumite war is gonna move forward as the plot thickens, literally at this point. And we actually kind of get to the main stake of this entire story. I'm really excited though. But do you have any final thoughts for the episode?
I wouldn't call this a bad episode. It's just that given everything that we have before and everything we're about to get into, it probably would be the weakest episode of the season. Though at the very least, it was a good last minute moment for the characters to catch their breath before everything does go to all hell. Even though the fact that they just went to hell. But like,
Yeah,
it's the last like moment to have like a normal, sort of villain of the week adventure before everything. So at the very least, it gave us that. Still probably the weakest episode of the season, not because it was bad, but just because in the grand scheme of everything else, it's important, but not as important as what's about to happen. So
yeah, yeah. But I'm looking forward to episode 5 of Invincible. We're over halfway through this mess. It's crazy. Yeah, time is moving again, and we good television right now is happening. Make sure you hit subscribe button, comment, like, and share. Let us know your thoughts on Invincible season 4, episode 4. We'll be back here for next episode 5 on the following week, and let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.